My abstract was on catcalling, misogyny, and victim blaming. Portuguese developed a law that considers catcalling to be a crime. Now, the thing is that people in Pakistan, especially women, are aware of what catcalling basically is. I mean, everyone should be aware. If not, I mean, it is a form of street harassment that consists unwanted comments and gestures and sexual advances, etc. But every woman I've even read up statistics that show that every woman has experienced sexual harassment in on the streets, regardless of which country they're in. So whether I'm in Canada or Pakistan, I have been catcalled, especially by men. So now this
Here's what I
this
found on the internet.
I'm sorry. Now this abstract focuses on how the Portuguese law, when it was developed, a lot of people got backlash as well from other people, considering different views and different opinions of street calling. वो ये कहते हैं कि it's not just वो overall idea को देखते हैं, but then when you see that, you realize that not really everyone understood gender-based violence and inequality in this society, because अगर आपकी जात के साथ कुछ नहीं हो रहा, then you don't really consider it a problem. For example, like and it also depends on your privilege. For example, abhi recently, I don't know if the other person who did this presentation mentioned Mawra Hussain or not, but this is a fine example because it's actually quite recent. It has happened this I think this month. Mawra Hussain went on an interview, and she's a celebrity, and she said catcalling is actually Lahori culture, and it is not it's not something to be take offense of. मतलब अगर ईद में कोई आपको छेड़ रहा है, तो that is just ईद का मतलब मिलन जुलन and all of that. Now she got a lot of hate, and she also got a lot of support, which shows that whenever you talk about something that is extreme, or something that is something that is you fighting for your right as a woman, you will always get two different kinds of response. It's either people who, like, you know, if it's because in this even in this abstract they say कि उन्होंने Facebook के through पूरी research की थी, and this is very common because nowadays media is very powerful, obviously, as always, but especially now at this age, even Me Too movement started from media, and it emerged from Twitter and from everyone coming out with their stories, and it built a community within women, like supporting each other. And उसमें भी बहुत लोगों को hate मिली थी, which is true, because एक तो आपके अपने traumas होते हैं that you have experienced your entire life as a woman, and then on top of that, when you come out with your story, then it's victim blaming and people telling you that, you know, it probably was your fault, and, you know, you shouldn't dress this particular way, which is why you're being catcalled. So this hate comes from everyone every time someone comes out with their story. And this research in this abstract as well, at the near end, they show they got a lot of backlash discourses, like people politicalized the whole street sexual harassment, and unhone oppression nahi dekha women ka, like they focused on the whole idea behind it. Like it's not, obviously people come up with excuses as well, like they will always have something to say. So what I got from this was पाकिस्तान में ये कोई चीज़ फिनोमेना मतलब बनी नहीं है, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली हम लोग देखते भी बॉलीवुड मूवीज़ हैं, एंड वी वॉच इवन हॉलीवुड मूवीज़, दे सेक्सुअलाइज वुमेन एंड दे मेक देम इनटू सेक्सुअल ऑब्जेक्ट्स. Especially like in Bollywood, I even saved this article that showed how Bollywood romanticizes the idea of a catcalling. This song by Shahid Kapoor, the lyrics translate to "Don't stop me for no reason, don't stop me from following you because I have a right over you." Now the woman is uninterested in him, but the boy chases her around, and, you know, and what this does is this glorifies that kind of behavior. So agar phir reality mein someone talks against it, so those people come out and say, no, but girls enjoy it. you guys want this. This is why you guys come out and you guys are looking for male attention. Because when a girl is showing attitude, that probably means it's a yes. And they learn that from the media that's given to them, that's being feeded to them. So like this is different movies, a lot of different movies. Kam Bakht Ishq, Rajkumar, Ranjana, like they all glorify harassment. And it just shows derogatory lyrics ke saath wo matlab, you know, as long as the tune is catchy, you can say whatever you want and you'll get the girl. And that's not okay, obviously. But that the hero always getting the girl at the end normalizes that behavior. So ye both different ways mein media also affects how people think around us, and how they believe that, you know, catcalling is a normal thing. And you know, a girl like Mavra Hussain, who's a woman herself, like she is claiming it to be Lahori culture, shows ke ladkiyon ne bhi internalize ki hui hai ye baat. Like is had tak it has been okayed by this society, and because with the help of media, of course. So yeah.
All right. Done? Are you done?
Yeah, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So, which medium did Mavra Hussain use for communication? Because here they say they used Facebook.
Oh no, ma'am. Mavra Hussain ka pehle to she came into an interview in ARY, and then she excused herself through Instagram, and she was like, no. But pehle usne jo bola tha na, jo cheez famous hui thi, that was in an interview that was uploaded on Instagram on some page, and it got viral from there.
Okay. All right. All right. So in this one, the authors are using frame analysis method. So when you speak of Mavra Hussain, have you focused on any particular way of understanding what she's saying or doing and how it got viral? Did you look at?
Ma'am, I looked at the fact that, matlab, when even in this, like, for example, at this time and generation, like everyone is so active and aware in social media, and I feel like anything you say could be taken against you or for your benefit. Like it's just how the audience and the readers internalize it. So usne jis tarike se bola hai, I feel like that correlates to what the authors are saying in this abstract as well. कि मतलब उन्होंने भी तो Facebook से ही शुरू किया था ना, and that shows that media has that power. Like if Mavra Hussain came out on TV, right, and it was an old, सबसे बड़ी बात ये है कि it wasn't a new interview. It was last year's Eid interview that was aired on television and no one cared at all. But somehow someone uploaded on Instagram abhi recently, and now it got all this fame achanak se, because people saw it on social media, like on their Instagram, on their Facebook, on different places. That interview just got viral, and then people start giving their perspective and their hate and their support. And you know, it got fame because of the whole community that gathered and talked against it. So I feel like
and do you think that the channel posted itself? The channel posted itself?
I mean, they could have. I mean, that's
okay. All right. So it's somehow somebody posted it, and the interview can be longer, and somebody posted a shorter clip. So it sounds like it was probably a selected clip, especially if it was if it was from an old TV program and went viral just now. So it seems that public can get. Public can do anything anytime. They can go back.
But ma'am, what she said, regardless of like the context, or even if one were to see the interview as a whole, it was meant to be taken out of perspective because of the way she said it. उसने तो बोला ना कि मतलब ये तो लड़कों की ईद होती है, मतलब देख लो मुझे, तार लो, it's okay, because ये तो फिर आपकी भी ईद होगी ना. Like the people were actually laughing at this, and this was shown to be hilarious. And she literally said, catcalling is not, it's Lahori culture. That's what I grew up with.
Okay.
So that
So
kind of normalizes this whole
And on
perspective.
Instagram they post a lot of clips of different things. I'm sure that they posted other clips of the same interview as well, but this one got the
Yeah,
attention,
because now
you
people
know.
are socially aware of what's right, and what is okay, and what is politically correct and incorrect, like what you're allowed to say in a social, like work celebrity. Yeah, she has some like power over people, so she should use her power to benefit the world, not make it worse. I mean, she's
I
normalizing
I
this
read a
behavior.
post. I read a post. There was this guy who posted it that you know, it is a relief at times to think that my mother's generation will be the last generation who is going to watch these dramas and who's going to watch
Yeah,
these things and find it okay, what
Hmm.
the story is about. And I'm glad that after my mother's generation, the girls are not going to fall for these things.
yeah,
The women are much more aware of
yeah,
what content is being showed now, and
yeah,
comparatively more aware. So, yeah.
yeah.
All
Thank
right.
God for that.
Uh, okay. Uh, do you remember that I discussed a particular clip with you in one of these classes, and it was from this movie, Pate Khan. Do you remember this scene? We
Yes, ma'am.
discussed it
Yes.
in class.
Yeah.
Okay, so all I wanted to say that this. Okay, so this is a crime under the law.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know that it's a crime under Pakistani law?
Yes.
Uh, and what is it exactly that's a crime?
I'm sorry, ma'am. Your voice was cutting off.
Yes, I think it was because the clip was still playing. I'm asking, do you know exactly why it is called a crime?
Ma'am, I think it would be because invasion of privacy and consent.
It's a crime since 1860, which means about 160 years, and it's a
Oh,
crime since the times of the British in this part of the world. It says Section 294. I opened it in front of you just now. It says
yeah.
Section 294 of Pakistan Penal Code, which means the section is from the 1860 law. They made it Pakistani, it's part of Pakistani law under the constitution, and it was last revived in 2012. It has the date in front of it. So
Yeah.
from 1860 to 2012, government just accepted the law as part of Pakistani law. It says that whoever, to the annoyance of others, sings, recites, or utters any obscene songs, ballads, or words in or near any public place shall be punished with imprisonment, which just means that you cannot catcall, number one, you cannot sing a song behind a girl while she's walking on the streets, and it also says that you cannot utter any obscene words or songs, etc., which just imply that this situation was still there in public places or in Pakistan or in India or in the subcontinent even 200 years ago, right? It says 1860, so about 160 years since then. So it
Oh,
means
wow.
that this problem has been there all the time, and for some reason, British had felt the need to create this law, so nobody does it to the annoyance of the other. That's all it says, that you should not annoy the other. And in this particular scene, it was very clear that Alauddin was actually, Alauddin and his group actually stopped Noor Jahan and her group. So people were doing it all the time. I can recall similar situations from the past, and I think if you talk to your aunts and nani, dadi, etc., you would probably hear the same story. So what Mavra Hussain
And
said, ji,
there's also this article. While I was researching for this presentation, I came across this article on BuzzFeed. It was like the title was called "Hey Bollywood, here's why I blame you every time I get catcalled." So this Nirali Shah explained from the films from the 90s till now, and how they have sexualized catcalling and, like, toxic behavior by men, and misogynistic storylines, and like rape culture को कैसे उन्होंने trivialized किया है. So the entire article is beautiful. I'll share it in the class group.
okay,
So
please.
उसमें भी यही
Okay.
movies की examples के साथ बता रहे हैं.
Yes, I understand that, but I think it's not just Bollywood. It seemed that it was always there. That
Yeah,
but mediation has increased the impact, because
yeah,
mediation actually glamorizes it, and mediation actually reaches
that's true.
more people at the same time. So
Yeah,
I think that's probably what most people mean when they criticize cinema in particular, or media in particular, for glamorizing these things. Okay,
yeah.
nice, very nice. Okay, good presentation.
Thank
G.
you, ma'am.
Okay, so who would like to go next?
Excuse me, miss.
G.
I'm new. Miss, my name comes like नीचे थोड़ी बात आते हैं, लेकिन if I can perform right now, तो that would be great.
Okay,
तब
all
तक
right, all right. Okay, please.
yes, 23746.
Okay, so it's toxic masculinity, misogyny, and feminism renewed.
Yes.
It would be all right. Okay, I think somebody already presented on this one.
At the very start of the last class.
Okay, let's see what you have to say about it. Ji.
Okay. Okay, so I also have one document that I would like to share, because there were a lot of clips as well, but they were very long. So I picked an article as well, which I can share right now, which you can open.
Have you emailed it to me?
No, I haven't emailed. I can share it in the chat.
Okay, please do.
Yes. I have a few video clips as well, which I can share in the end, if we have time.
Yes, it would be best that if it would be best if you can email all the links to me, because from chat I go on to a different kind of uh, chat does not use Chrome on my computer. Chat uses Edge on my computer, so it means I have to shift to a different one, and then I copy it from there and paste it here. So if you email, I can directly open it from here. So was this the page that you wanted to open?
It's this one, this article. Yes. Okay, so can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so this abstract is written by Maria Marin, and it is titled Toxic Masculinity, Misogyny, Feminism Renewed. So the title of this topic is, it's very reflective of what this abstract discusses. And the first line of this abstract basically summarizes the crux of this whole abstract. I'm just going to read that out. The argument can be made that toxic masculinity and misogyny have led to a renewal of feminism. So, which this basically, this statement shows that this abstract discusses toxic masculinity and how misogyny and violence that results from it leads to very unfortunate circumstances. And recognizing these notions has led to a progress in feminist movement and Me Too movement as well. So to be clear on the topic of, on the concept of toxic masculinity, I'll just elaborate on it a little bit and explain the meaning of it. So the concept of toxic masculinity was first introduced in the mythopoetic men's movement, and that movement was also called the New Age men's movement in the 1980s and 90s. And this was a reaction to the second wave of feminism. So when feminists talk about the toxic masculinity, they are targeting to the traditional traits associated with the gender that is assigned to male sex, and this concept of toxic masculinity is very misunderstood. What this concept actually targets is the traits of men that include aggression, violence, and basically misogyny and homophobia that results from it. And these gender norms tend to promote violence, which also leads very unfortunate incidents like murder, mass shootings, rape, even cybercrime, and even bullying in school. And further on, this abstract also mentions the incel movement. And this incel movement is basically an online subculture of members of heterosexual men that exhibit misogynistic, racist, sexist, and violent traits. And these men call themselves incels, and they also show a sense of entitlement to women's body and sex. And further, they engage in humankind hatred. So this subculture, when I was researching on this movement, this subculture proved to be very dangerous when because mass murders were being committed by these men, and they claim to hate women even though they desire them. They hate women, and because of this online subculture, a lot of crimes were being committed against women. And the author Marin, she links toxic masculinity and this online subculture of incels to Me Too movement, and how recognizing these concepts is relevant to minimizing the incidents that occur against women. And toxic masculinity, because toxic masculinity targets the traditional norms, the gender norms that are built for men, and how men commit very horrendous crimes against women due to that. And talking about and recognizing this concept of toxic masculinity would help us redefine masculinity in our culture. And because, okay, so there's the article that I shared. I'm going to quote something from that article. So the article says that research shows that men and boys who adhere to rigid views of gender roles and masculinity are more likely to use violence against a partner. So, and also there was a study in United Nations global study in that's the study in 2018 that states that intimate partner violence against women and girls is rooted in widely accepted gender norms about men's authority and men's use of violence to exert control over men. And all these incidents, all this violence is rooted from toxic masculinity. And if we redefine masculinity, the concept of masculinity in our society, that would help minimize the incidents that take place against women, like rape, assaults, physical assault, because all that stems from males, their perception of having authority over women's body, and basically considering women submissive and inferior. And even and not just women actually, and other minorities as well, like violence against LGBTQIA community, because other gender, which are like even those that don't fall under the binary, those also are victim to this to toxic masculinity. So that's what basically Maria Marin is trying to shed light on. And moving on, I can also like share a clip. There's a TED talk, but it's a little long. We can watch it later, or I can just email that to you.
Is that clip from TED Talk?
Yes.
If you have selected a particular line from it or a particular section, if you have identified where you would want to start, we can share it. But if it's long, you're not sure where exactly to stop,
Oh, yeah.
then I think we have to leave it for future.
Yeah, I think
So,
it's a bit long, so we can watch it later. But yes, that's what basically I want to talk about this article. How Maria Marin links toxic masculinity to the Me Too movement, and how important, how integral it is to be aware of this concept and to redefine the concepts of masculinity and
okay.
the
You
progress
All right. So you mentioned like mass killing, and you mentioned new age men's movement, etc. So I was just wondering, is this mass killing about killing a mass of women?
It wasn't like um, not not really, but violence still took place due to that. And also that in cells, these men, they even if we don't consider that mass shooting, um, they still committed crimes against women. I don't have exact statistics, but because they showed a lot of misogynistic and hatred towards women, and even violent traits, more specifically violent traits, so they're prone to have that kind of behavior um, against women, because they specifically mention, like in this abstract, and I can quote, it's the line right before Me Too movement, actually. It says that heterosexual members in an online subculture who define themselves as unable to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one engage in misogyny, racism, a sense of entitlement to sex, and endorse violence. And I read about the incel movement, which says that these men are more likely to have violent behavior, violent actions against women. So yeah, they do. Maybe the mass murders that may have not included women, but in general, in their daily life, their violent behaviors are against women.
Okay, so that you're saying it continues. They are generally toxic and they remain toxic. The article
Yes.
that you selected says that not all boys are toxic, and I think that somebody felt it important to emphasize that not all of them are toxic.
Yeah. Okay.
It sounds very familiar that not all women have faulty intellect. You know, Pakistan में हम कहते हैं ना नाकिसुल woman. So
Yes.
probably, I think these are more generalizations in that sense.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone, do you want to say anything about or ask anything about what she presented? I think it was important. It was nice to see new information in regards to what Maria Maron was saying.
Yes.
And she is publishing 2 books on misogyny this year. I think one is already in print and the other one would be coming up. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. uh,
I would
Ji,
like to email her about this abstract as well, so I can know about it more. I read about that. I think this abstract is part of a book which has even more abstracts, and also like just what you quoted from this article. That's what this article is about. That Meryl Streep, she's an actress, and she mentions how toxic masculinity is a wrong state phrase to use, because women can be toxic as well. But the author of this article, she further on, she explains how there are so many crimes that take place against women. And toxic masculinity, the concept is misunderstood. It's not against men, it's just the traits that are being socially constructed for men to adhere to. So yeah, and she also proves it with a lot of studies and research.
all right, all right, nice. Thank you. Thank you, Noor. It was good, and it was good to see some new information on it. All right, so who would like to go next? Uh, Ariba, can you do
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay. All right. So nice to hear, because I think then it becomes a bit difficult for me to find out who is there and who has not presented. So which article is it?
Ma'am, it's 20658, Feminism's Current Movement in South Korea.
Uh, Feminism. Is it this one?
Wait. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see what it says about South Korea. Ji.
Ma'am, this abstract talks about how newspapers interacted to its readers about feminism over time. And the sentence was summarizes the whole abstract in one sentence. And I'll quote: while there is an increasing prevalence of feminism in South Korea on a global scale, it is also a target of social, political, and economic conditions of the country. So, feminism in South Korea has increased a lot over time, but and it is shown in a positive light, but it has still become a target of many uh, by many political parties and economy. The abstract highlights how feminism has acted as a force to counter violence against women in the form of revenge porn, hate crimes, etc. since 2010, but it received backlash as well. Like feminist movements are highlighted as a cause of social antagonism between the both sexes by anti-feminists. So with time, the aggression has also increased while there has been a positive change. For this research abstract, the author used 2,500 newspaper articles from 2015 to 2018 to analyze how South Korean news media demonstrated feminism. And it was found that previously feminism was considered as a social force that disrupted the status quo. But with time, the news articles from 2015 to 2018 shows an important transitions as the media discourse of both feminism and anti-feminisms have exploded. And other findings included that there has been an increase in media coverage of women's issue from feminist perspective. Like previously, it just highlighted the negative aspects of feminism on society, mostly by anti-feminists. But now the newspapers were discussing more issues women faced in South Korea, like revenge porn and hate crimes. And so, uh, while feminism is in newspapers still struggling to find the entirely positive light, feminism is doing really well in the Korean dramas, contrary to what the abstract states, like in the newspaper. For example, High School Loves On and many other shows on Netflix shows strong women who are well educated and quite outspoken, and like feminism is shown in a positive light, and it empowers women and endorses all the healthy attitude towards feminism.
Right. Okay. So, okay. So basically, she pointed to two important aspects like feminism and anti-feminism. Uh, that one geared the other. Okay. Anything else? Because I was just trying to understand that she mentions impeachment of Park Geun-hye, who perhaps would be head of
Yeah,
the state, right? So, and she says that political environment in
yeah,
South Korea changed
yeah,
with his impeachment. So
like
probably she's trying to create a link between
yeah,
removal of the head of the state and
yeah,
change in media in terms of feminism and anti-feminism
mm,
appearing in parallel to each other. So I
yes,
wonder how this impeachment had a positive effect on the overall situation, because she's just saying what everybody else says, that feminism always coincides with anti-feminism kind of movement, and I think most of the articles are saying similar things. So I found it interesting that she's actually picking up a large number of news articles just to
yeah,
understand how discourse changed over a period of 3 years at least.
yeah,
So if at the start of 3 years there were more anti-feminist articles, there were perhaps
mm,
less uh, towards the end of 3 years. So it does imply that perhaps changes or the trend or the type of news or news framing changes from time to time.
Yes.
Framing is actually about the type of frame you select. For example, right now you have a frame in front of you, like this frame is what I am showing to you on the screen. So it's a particular frame that I have selected. So framing in news actually implies how you are framing in terms of image and framing in terms of word selection also, because we frame and discuss, or we put everything in a particular context uh, which would have an effect. So it just says that over a period of 3 years, uh, there were more and more articles being presented from women's perspective, and she has associated this movement to political and economic power of women. So I think
Yes,
it's interesting to see that even anti-feminist movement is connected to political and economic power of women.
yes.
So whatever threat it can create. Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, Ariba.
Thank
I
you.
think it was a good presentation of whatever the abstract is saying. It shows what kind of literature the author reviewed, and it also shows what kind of method the author used for writing this article. And I think it's both it's do you think it was quantitative or qualitative, because she's talking about 2500 news articles? So I would assume that she's talking about qualitative, because she's saying the perspective changed over a period of time. Initially, she was looking at more anti-feminist kind of content, and later she thought that more articles were presented from feminist perspective. So I am assuming that she did qualitative and quantitative.
Quantitative.
Uh,
Yes, ma'am.
Qualitative because she's looking at the change in trend, because she's saying more and more
Mm.
articles were presented from feminist perspective. She can find it out by reading the article, but at the same time she is perhaps counting the numbers. She was doing it quantitatively because she is looking at how many more articles were uh, uh, presenting women's perspective over a period of time. Right.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ji, uh, who would like to go next? Ramin and Mariam Minahil. Ji, I would suggest कि voluntary basis पे कर लें, because we want to finish it. Zoha, would you like to go next?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay, please. So which one is it?
Ma'am, it's Greta Gerwig's When Sexualized Violence Becomes Part of Your Job Description.
I think we probably discussed Greta Gober's as well. What's the page number? Can you tell me the page number?
Ma'am, it's 7.
Page 7. Okay, so right here. Okay, so was it Greta Gober alone, or was it Greta and Sarah?
No, ma'am, I was alone. She was alone.
So it's not this one. It's not panel gendered online harassment on journalism. Is it?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so
No. It's the next one.
is it this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Okay, we haven't done this one before. Ji.
Acha, okay. So the title, it says that when sexualized violence becomes part of your job description. Okay, so I was researching online, and I read this comment which was presented by women, and she said that workplace violence and harassment um, present a significant barrier to women accessing and progressing through the labor market. It erodes the decent working conditions
And this other woman, she stated that I felt violated and scared, even though I said I was going to report this. I felt I could not because I thought I could easily lose my job. So we know that online sexual violence is faced by many female journalists, but they don't tend to report it because the employers and the people who are hiring them, they don't consider this violence as violence, which is ironic because it is a kind of violence, but they don't consider it violence. So the violence against women and girls is already a problem of pandemic proportion. Research shows that 1 in 3 women will experience a form of violence in their lifetime. But there's this other research which by VAWG, Violence Against Women and Girls. It says that uh, the research suggests that 73% of women have already been exposed or have already been exposed to or have experienced some kind of online violence with social networks still in their relative infancy. It is problem that it is a problem that needs to be addressed, but it is not being addressed, but it needs to be addressed, right? Many working women will experience sexual harassment at some point in their careers. While some report this harassment, many leave their jobs, and it have long-term effects on them because now they'll have to leave their jobs because most of the time these problems they don't get solved, and due to this, then they have this issues with economical issues as well, right? Okay,
Okay.
so okay. Yeah, but you know that journalists they have to express their opinions and they have the right, and other people also have to express their opinions. But journalists they have to show the whole side of the story, right? And they have to tell everything they know. But due to the online violence that women face, they have to like censor their content because now they have like they have this. Feeling that they might get harassed or people will bully them because of their opinions. So the journalists they have to censor and they have to like control what their opinions about certain aspects.
Okay.
And
All
the journalists and they face serious threats like they have to like they get threats of rapes and death and they get stalked and there's some serious threats that they get online. But they matlab, like this is not considered as an organizational problem, the online bullying, because the organization and the media networks where these female journalists are working, they don't have any proper I've forgotten.
feminist year.
Yeah, and they don't give their employees uh, the training that how they should be protected against the cyber bullying, right? They don't give their employees the training, and this cyber bullying and violence does not only come from the clients, it often comes from their own uh, people who they're working with, their colleagues, and even their bosses sometimes.
Okay. I was just trying to understand what it means here when it says sexualized violence become part of your job description. Um, so what is she exactly trying to say? And for this, she has mentioned or do journalistic field theory. I think so. That's why she's probably trying to uh, create a connection between the journalistic field theory and sexualized violence being part of the job description. So it means that journalists perhaps can face it anytime. Okay. All right. Okay.
Ma'am, I
So
also have a video. Can I like share the link?
yes, can you share it in WhatsApp group instead?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think most of you should try presenting on an abstract that has not been discussed before. G, have you shared?
Ma'am,
Okay. So where would you want me to stop exactly? Because this is 16 minutes long. I can go to whatever you want to show. I can directly go there.
wait, ma'am. Wait. Ma'am, you can stop it at 7 minutes.
7 minutes?
Yeah.
Exactly 7 minutes?
7 minutes if I can.
96% of all postings of sexual images in our young people, girls, our boys, are 2 to 3 times more likely non-consensually to share images. And I want to say a word about revenge porn. Part of what came out.
Did you want me to stop here?
No, I wanted you to start from the beginning and stop it at 7.
Beginning means 7 minutes?
No, like the beginning of the video.
And stop exactly where?
7 minutes.
You're saying that I should play it for 7 minutes?
Yeah, I guess.
That's a bit long because in a 7 minutes presentation we can't play for 7 minutes. So what exactly you want me to share?
I'll let you know.
At 7 minutes, she said that most of these images are images of women shared without, without the consent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's fine. You can start from 7 and end it at 8.
%96 of all postings of sexual images in our young people, girls, our boys, are 2 to 3 times more likely non-consensually to share images. And I want to say a word about revenge porn. Part of what came out of this tweet was my getting connected with allies and other activists who are fighting for a safe and free internet. We started something called the Speech Project, Curbing Abuse, Expanding Freedom, and that website provides a critical forum because there is no global legal thing
to help us figure this out. But we do provide on that website a standardized list of definitions, because it's hard to attack a behavior in the right way if we're not all sharing a definition of what that behavior is. And I learned that revenge porn is often dangerously misapplied. It is the non-consensual sharing of an image.
Okay. All right. So I think somebody did mention revenge porn, and this clip was actually emphasizing on revenge porn. Gee, anything else? Any comment by anyone?
Ma'am, I was just confused that this video doesn't apply to what this abstract says.
This
Couldn't relate.
okay. So what Greta Gober says. Gee, Zoha, do you want to say something about it?
I thought it like it talks about online violence. That is why I added the picture.
All right. This is more focusing on sexualized violence in job, you know, like being part of your job description, and cyber protection, training employees. So it's more about, you know, like about a situation which was very common even before internet became part of everybody's life. And she's specifically talking about women's organizations and international women's media foundations. So we can say that she's focusing on a particular type of media, and within that she's focusing on cyber protection for female journalists in particular. And as you yourself highlighted, that it's considered part of their job description. So perhaps I don't know, but there is a possibility that revenge porn sometimes may be of these women journalists as well, if it is of common people. But in this clip in particular, she did not particularly say that women journalists may also face similar things. So one thing that could be done would be to go to International Women's Media Foundation. And I believe that the International Women's Media Foundation must have posted some kind of work ethics online or media ethics online, because all media organizations do post some sort of guidelines about media ethics, etc. So I believe it would be interesting to see how women media or what women media foundation is actually posting about work ethics or sexualized violence being part of job description. That is something which can be done, and I think that might be a little different. And another thing that she says is that in such kind of things, time, location, and tools become irrelevant. You know, so in terms of tools, we perhaps can say that it was there before online harassment, and its probably scale has much increased because of the online harassment. Okay, thank you. I think all points covered. Okay. Yeah. So who would like to go next?
Ma'am, can I go next?
Yes, please, Ramin. Sure. Which one?
My article is same as Ariba's.
I said try not to present the same one. Try to present a different one.
Actually, my number was 17, and 17 पे वही article आ रहा था. So I prepared it like long time ago.
Okay. Which one did she discuss? And if you can add something new,
Yes, ma'am. Just give me two
what would
minutes.
that be? So I would have thought that number, if there are 14 articles here, number 17 should probably go for number 3 on this number 3 in this file. So which one did you select? Can you tell me the page number?
Yes, ma'am. It's like the um, feminism's current movement in South Korea. It's on the second page.
On the second page, okay. Uh, because we haven't, you're presenting on this one, catcalling, or the
No,
next
ma'am.
one?
Then it's feminist current movement in South Korea. Uh,
You said
I read
page
on
number,
this kind of.
did you say page number 2?
Yes, ma'am. Let me check again. Wait. Ma'am, I don't know exactly the page number, but like I'm telling you the name of the article abstract. Wait.
So I assume this is the one. Okay, so I just hope you will add something new to this discussion. And I would suggest that people should not randomly pick up. People should try sticking to the abstract number, because if there are 14 abstract, number 15 can add something new to abstract 1. And 16 and 17 should probably go for abstract number 2 and 3. Gee, so what do you want to add to this discussion?
So ma'am, this abstract, it's basically talking about feminism and its evolution in South Korea. So as it says that in 2010, feminism has become one of the hottest topics in South Korea, faced with increasing violence against women. So the Korean women movement, which is seen in both Western and non-Western countries as being exemplary in terms of women activism. So it experienced a dramatic change in its direction and strategy in the early 90s, and several researches were done in early 90s to explore why feminist activists in South Korea choose to organize around the issue of sexual violence and the strategies it used to do so. So basically these groups, they were formed during the late 1980s, as opposed to the older reformist groups. So at that time, new approaches were increasing, and their focus were on sexual violence, which had a huge impact on bringing women issues onto the public agenda in Korea. So there's this article which is written by Sunny Lee, and which is named as Why Korean Women Are Hesitant to Label Themselves Feminists. So so uh, this article originally appeared on Voice Asia. Sira Park, she's a 29 years old girl. She's cafe owner, and she cares a great deal about women's rights, but does not identify herself as a feminist, particularly not in Korea. So instead, she calls herself an equalist. So now I'm quoting her. She said that I don't want to be called a feminist here in Korea. Maybe I would say I'm a feminist if I wasn't in Korea, but there's a certain stereotype and stigma that comes with the title here. And she also said that another incident, which involves a K-pop girl, she uploaded a photo of herself on Instagram, which showed a phone case with the phrase "girls can do anything." So this picture actually went viral and brought intense backlash, with many labeling her as a feminist. So she said that she eventually deleted the picture, and she said that this behavior is noticeably very different from that of my friends in the US, who don't have to walk on eggshells before adding hashtags such as feminism or feminist. So it actually shows that there's still a long way to go before feminism can be discussed comfortably in Korea. Um, People reacted firstly. like in 1980s or 90s, people reacted negatively towards feminism. At the beginning, media represented it as something that completely opposed the male, that this movement completely opposes the male gender, which is obviously completely false. So as media plays an important role in the widespread of any idea or a new trend. So Korea has a lot of stereotypes when it comes to their females. For example, they have to be a certain weight in order for the society to accept them, and they're extremely racist also. So according to researchers, Korea's short history in feminism and the lack of awareness among society and media, that is why people rely on radical communities methods as a representation of
Okay. Are you done? Ramin?
sorry ma'am, there was some.
Uh, it's okay. You were saying something about some radical
Yes.
methods. Yeah.
So, Korea's radical feminist and online communities, their efforts have indeed been successful. They have contributed enormously to the transformation and emergence to the of feminism in a male-dominated country. And online communities have worked together, uh, both online and offline, to shut down SoraNet, which is an illegal porn website which featured spy cam and rape videos among others. And
Is she disconnected? Okay. Any comment on what she said about this uh, radical feminist method? I think at least this is a new terminology that we have heard since last week. So, any comment on radical feminist method or any other thing that she had said? And I think that I would like to hear a bit more about radical feminist method. It was an article that we had discussed before, or an abstract that we had discussed before, but I think that she pointed to an interesting new methodology, and I just wanted to hear more about it. All right.
I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Can I continue?
Uh, okay, I thought you had probably concluded. I said I wanted to know a bit more about this radical feminist method that you mentioned. I was
Yes,
trying
I
to
was going to
understand.
explain that. I was
Yes,
going to
so
explain that.
what does that exactly imply? And
So basically, there are two movements in Korea: reformist movement and radical movement. So reformist feminist movements in South Korea, they basically concentrate on changing women's role in society. These movements are more similar to mainstream feminist movements in America. So their methods include lobbying, influencing decision makers, and drafting legislation. And they're usually in support of the government of South Korea. And these groups are said to be more mainstream and are made up of women from the middle class who speak both Korean and English. So most of these groups are affiliated with the Council of Koreans Women Organizations. Whereas the radical feminist movements in South Korea, they focus on women's rights as human rights, and many of these groups were formed during the late 1980s as opposed to the older reformist groups, as I told you earlier. So they focus on issues such as the reunification with North Korea and the prevention of torture of prisoners. And the term radical, that does not refer to support for radical changes in women roles. uh, their methods include strikes, marches, and public demonstrations. And it can be argued that the word radical is used because of the context of Korean society, which is far more oppressive and conservative than Western society. And the radical groups, they are also younger than the reformist groups, and they are made up of often well-educated middle-class women who prefer to speak only Korean. So radical organizations, example of radical organizations are Women Society for Democracy, which was established in 1987, and Women Hotline established in 1983, and Korean Women Worker Association. So yeah, that was it.
Okay. So, who has a stronger comment between the two, between the reformist and radical groups? Reformist is only talking about reforms, and radical groups are talking about change in women's status or something?
Yes.
Okay. So, reforms would also mean change, right? So, are radical feminists doing what women normally not do?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can basically reformists tend to focus on change within the system, but radical feminists say that the system itself is an oppressive structure and it should be dismantled to then bring about change that is egalitarian and a structure which is egalitarian in nature. So both of them function very differently. And
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Nimra. I think that was very useful because it does explain how radical feminists are different from reformists, and dismantling of system is emphasized in a very oppressive society. There have been, I think, since Samsung came here, many Koreans also came to Pakistan, and I think we being an oppressive society ourselves, we could actually see that they are very conservative at certain times. They are even more conservative. Uh, you know. Gee, thank you, Ramin. It was very nice. It was in fact very good because I think I wanted to hear something new. We had discussed this article before, and very clearly you did add new information. I would suggest that people who are presenting on similar abstract, they should try to present together or right after one another, because it helps. We can have all the discussion in one go. Uh, who else is left? I think Mariam Akbar. Mariam?
मैम मिस वो मारा भी रहती है अभी
But
she's
Myra,
messaging
yes, she's not here. She said she will try to join. She had some power problems. Ji. So, Amna Jahangir, Hassan, Tahreem Kanza Zarish Komal, Nimra, Ikra, Noor, Zoha, and Ramin have presented. And I just want that anyone who is left, from from the list of people who are present today. Kulsum. Kulsum, would you like to do it now? Kulsum and Mariam Akbar. I think everyone else who is present today has presented. Ji Kulsum?
Ma'am, Kulsum's mic isn't working.
She must unmute. I have unmuted her. Kulsum, please try to say something. Ji Kulsum? Okay, I think if nobody is ready to present right now, if Kulsum and Mariam do not want to present, then I think we should go to the next article. Ji Mariam?
मैम मनाही कह रही थी
but you can't hear
इसको आ
her.
रहा है लाइट का तो इस वजह से
मिनाहिल क्या कह रही थी? सॉरी जी.
मैम उसके घर लाइट नहीं आ रही है तो उसको थोड़ा सा इशू हो रहा है.
I think कि आज कुछ प्रॉब्लम है because of monsoon. But I did want to find out कि Mariam Akbar and Kulsum, they should try doing it now, because it would be difficult to go back to these abstracts once we start the next topic. I did find this abstract too very interesting, and I believe Amna Iqbal was supposed to present this one. She is not here, so I would briefly go through what this abstract says, and then we'll go to the next topic. We will start reading the next topic in Google Classroom. So this one says, coloring your prejudices, from slut shaming to market nail polish to feminist activism. Okay, somebody's mic is on. And Mariam Akbar. Mariam Akbar, are you ready to present yours, or should I discuss the article?
मैम मरियम का माइक नहीं चल रहा.
Mariam का mic on है इस वक्त right now. So I just want to know if she wants to discuss an abstract. जी Mariam. No, Mariam, we cannot hear you. Your mic is on, but we can't hear you. So in that case, what I'll do that I'll just briefly discuss what this abstract says, and then we go to the next reading, because we should start the next one. This abstract, I said I find it interesting, and that's the only reason I want to discuss it, because I think otherwise we have discussed sufficient things in sufficient number of abstracts on this topic, and there were many other things in this under this topic. For example, it says sexism and misogyny. It has Beauty and Misogyny by Sheila Jeffrey. We have another article by, I believe this is by Olson, and she is posting on language of women, which it says that according to Dante, women speak vulgar language. So Dante is a bit historical. So I would have thought that people who had not found an abstract, they could probably pick up something from these articles. They could pick up, for example, they could look at first paragraph or first 1 or 2 pages of these articles and briefly present what these articles were saying. And I had briefly mentioned it earlier, I think in the last class, that Dante is definitely among the list of 100 most influential people born in this world. So I thought it was very important that Dante was saying that women speak vulgar language and women's vernacular is vulgar. And so that's why I'm saying that this was an interesting reading in many ways. And this was by Judith Bennett. It was Misogyny in Popular Culture. And I'm sure that there were few other articles, for example, The Mist of Misogyny by Andrews, which is also posted here. Apart from that, I think this was Bell Hooks. She was talking about misogyny and sexism in music. misogyny and gangster rap and the piano. So that's why I'm saying that if you had not found an abstract in the abstracts file, because it had only 14 abstracts, it may have been a good idea to look at something else that was posted in Google Classroom, or this one is actually a book. And I had mentioned in the last class that it has a number of chapters on misogyny, beauty and misogyny. So Sheila Jeffrey actually edited this book, and as it says that it has 216 pages. So I'm sure that there would be many things here that speak of women and misogyny. Only one reading that I posted actually said Philogyny, and it may have been interesting to hear something about Philogyny, because as misogyny is about hating women, Philogyny is about loving women. So there isn't much found on Philogyny, I think. So that's why I thought that if somebody could present on Philogyny, that may have been interesting too. So these are, for example, Madonna in Express Yourself emphasizes on misogyny, and she used, she emphasized on misogyny in brothels, and she brought that misogyny to pop culture, because you may have heard that this was an important video. And say about it. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't want to turn it on. I just tried. So Express Yourself is one example. Apart from that, I think Shakira and Rihanna, they posted this video. You may have heard of their duets, etc. So I would think that this was also interesting, because this video is actually focusing on Philogyny between women, and it is just the opposite of what Madonna was showing in the earlier video, because Madonna actually sexualized her own image on stage. Right, so that's why I'm saying that it is sometimes interesting to see what different people are saying, and how different people are discussing or presenting similar things. So Madonna, as I said, brought sexualization from brothel to stage, sexualization of women, because that's very different, because I think that many people actually criticized Madonna for bringing this misogyny to pop culture. And Madonna thought that misogyny is when you are doing something outside your consent. She said, I'm doing it myself, and it's my decision to perform on stage in this manner. So I thought that they were also presenting interesting point of views, because when Madonna said that she doesn't think it is misogyny, many women, especially women scholars, commented on Madonna, and she thought that it's an immature. Many women said that she has not well thought when she said that she's doing by choice. So doing by choice is not misogyny or objectification. That is what she was trying to say. So in this image, you can see that Shakira and Rihanna are together. In a way, they are trying to run away from heterosexual relationship and presenting this kind of images. So that's why I'm saying that it was interesting. These are interesting topics in certain ways, and perhaps you can, like right now, since last 2 years, I'm seeing more and more articles on misogyny in scriptures, misogyny in music, And apart from revenge porn that you mentioned yourself today, that in many cases women face this this kind of harassment, and it was perhaps quite evident in the Korean case or uh, in law reforms uh, in Portugal. So I said that this one is an example from Colombia, and it's quite interesting to see that the title is very specific. It's focusing on specific brand of nail polish. It says coloring your prejudices from slut shaming to market nail polish to feminist activism. Mesclo, as it says, Mesclo is a Colombian brand of nail polish, and this brand is present in 12 countries from USA to Spain. Right, so I think this brand it was important because this nail polish is being sold in 12 countries, and in these 12 countries it's marketed with such names as rash, slutty, flirtatious, controlling, domineering, and it has many other titles associated with it, and the author feels that this kind of titles are actually created to slut shame, right? So you're trying slut shaming is emphasized here, and slut shaming is considered misogynistic, ignoring what culture or norms say about sluts, which means that author are probably, or feminism is actually also trying to take care of the status of sluts or women in brothel in many cases, as is seen in Madonna's case, or even in Shakira and Rihanna's images, that there are different responses to philogyny and misogyny. Okay, so this one actually says that Colombian women are actually, there's a direct correlation between the ambitions of Colombian women and the names of various polishes, right? So it's quite interesting that why this author is actually saying that there is a relationship between ambitions, because I believe she's talking about common women, ambitions of common women, and you can see that there is a list of people: Marta Barrios, Toby Miller, and Jesus Eroyev, and Andrea Conchino, who are writing this article together. So perhaps it implies that the nail polish is sold in 12 countries. So perhaps they are trying to study how people in different countries are responding to this kind of product, right? So, and why she say that ambitions of 500 women are somehow connected to 500,000 women who are working women in Colombia. 60% of them uses Mesclo. So 60% women out of 500,000, it's a very large number that she says are using this nail polish brand. So what they did, that they collected 794 tweets, right? 794 tweets with this with the hashtag yes to daring Mesclo names, right? So which means that they are trying to understand that people like this kind of names or people dislike this kind of names, because she thinks that these names may have been created for slut shaming, right? So here she says that out of 794 tweets with the hashtag yes to Mesclo names, and 228 tweets that said no to daring Mesclo names. So names are actually considered daring, but she's trying to study what people, if people like these names or dislike names. So only 28 people are saying no to the daring Mesclo names, okay? And 794 are actually in support of the names, which means fine, women don't mind these brands being called slutty or they don't mind buying a nail polish, uh, that is named flirtatious, or a nail polish that is named controlling. So they not only buy these nail polishes, they also wear them. So from the numbers that are posted here, it seems that most women actually, uh, perhaps about 80% or more women were actually supporting such names, and 20% or less women were against such names of nail polishes. Uh, what else would it imply? Would it imply that women who are supporting such names do not mind that they are named, that nail polish are named slutty, flirtatious, domineering, rash, etc. These all of these names have specific connotations and meanings. Okay, so results, she says, show that controversy was an exchange between enraged feminist users of nail polish and satisfied non-feminist ones, right? So, which means that when they posted hashtag these daring names and no to daring names, uh, it is just showing exchange ex, exchange of comments, or exchange between enraged feminist users and satisfied users. It says the conversation, uh, femininity and slut shaming are emphasized. One group was upheld, the other left cold by such controversies. So apparently, the group that disliked or said no to the daring names uh, was uh, we can say that was the group that was upheld by such names. And it says that conversations was dominated by women, 86.8%. So more or less 87% women are participating in these tweets, and less than 10% were men. And she says 4.3% are others, like people who did not identify their gender. So they are trying to see if men are, if men are saying yes or no to the daring names. But as more women are commenting or tweeting, so naturally we can see that most women actually said yes to the daring names. It says that majority were in favor of the use of these names. So if you start using these names, probably you will be desensitized against their negative connotations, because she's saying that most women actually, most respondents actually supported, they were in favor of the use of names like rash and slutty or flirtatious. So they said use these names. It means that the more you use these names, the more you will be desensitized to its negative connotation. Okay, and 21.9% were presented an opinion against the use of the names, and 7% or 7.7% people were neutral about the use of daring names. The negative names were the most popular among the Twitter conversations, such as prostitute, glutton, slutty, or layabout. So we can see that it is not just a name of list that she had mentioned earlier, but she is mentioning more names, like slutty or prostitute or layabout. So it means that, and she's already saying that most women actually supported the use of these names, which means that if you're using it, you will be desensitized to the taboo that is associated with the name. Women supporting the strategy disarticulated the pleasure they derive from the product, from its marketing. There is a relationship between the ambivalent responses of women customers and activists to these shibboleths indexes and the wider set of contradictions confronting women over makeup and labor relations to occupation, health, to imagery. So I think women are focusing more on more this kind of things like labor, which means we often talked about men being socio-economic builders. So in this case, that somebody is trying to emphasize that women can also be socio-economic builders. So I think there were more researches this year from even from early part of the past century that women started when the women started working as waitresses in China. Which means that about 100 years ago, when women waitresses started emerging in China, there must have been some kind of reaction about their role in socio-economic situation within the country, and there is a possibility that people were reacting negatively to those working women in those times. Then it also mentions, health kind of thing. So I believe that apart from their socio-economic status, women are increasingly becoming interested in their health issues, while women are also becoming interested in beautification in issues. For example, online beautification is something which is an emerging theme. So when we talk about online beautification or tools that are posted online or available online for beautification or change or for making a change to own image or self-image, we can see that women are probably using different kind of tools to change the self-image or to beautify self-image in online relationships. So that's also quite interesting that if this kind of things are happening, there are new discourses on issues like women are actually trying to objectify themselves when they try to use online tools for digital beautification of their images. So I think these are interesting new debates. In the past, we talked about mostly objectification by men of women, but these new discourses on digital beautification or women makeup kind of things actually point to women's desire or women's use of self objectification in many ways. Okay, so I think these are also very interesting in the sense that these debates are taking new dimensions or new angles right now. She just these authors just conclude that the Twitter Mesclo debate changed little. A major Colombian firm continued to exploit invidious stereotypes that demean women. So all these stereotypes that are listed here, from prostitute to glutton to slutty or layabout, domineering or dominating, all these stereotypes actually demean women. But what she is saying that despite knowing that these titles are given to demean women or to insult women or to show misogyny to women, in keeping with the nation machismo culture and limited range of commercially endorsed beauty and desire. So all she means here that beauty and desire normally go together, and most advertising actually focuses on beauty and desire, which means that they emphasize on objectification of women. But these women who she whose tweets they studied more than 1,000 tweets right? So 794 is about 800 and 228. It means that overall number must be something like 1000 to 1022 tweets on this subject, right? So on this subject means that women actually say yes to daring masculine names, or they say no to daring masculine names. It just shows that that the respondents actually recognize that the objective of the titles is slut shaming, but despite recognizing that they are created to demean women, they actually support that these names should be used, because they are saying yes to the daring titles, yes to glutton, yes to slutty, yes to prostitute. Okay, so it means that in Colombia and countries and the neighboring countries, I wonder who got access to this website. People who were using these uh, nail polish actually tweeted on Masclo about the names. So despite realizing that they were demeaning, they are saying yes, use the name, yes to the names such as slutty or layabout. So it would be interesting to see that if it is desensitizing, uh, desensitizing against the taboo that is there in many societies, right? Uh, it says that these actually try to create impressions such as subordinate situation of women across the country. uh, like but this is too, it says that subordinate women across the country. This also illustrates the powerful paradoxes at the heart of emphasized femininity and reflection in nail polish. So it's interesting that how a nail polish that is named slutty emphasizes femininity, and how a nail polish that is named prostitute emphasizes femininity or sexuality in certain ways. Uh, what she says that one of the world's principles, high femi signifiers, colored nail polish, are both profoundly traditional and yet laden with the power of sexual difference, expressing itself in the social sphere and disrupting male physical normativity within the public life. So uh, it just implies that this kind of names of nail polish are actually, uh, they actually serve as signifiers, high femme signifiers, because women use nail polish, and these are laden with the power of sexual difference, and they and that sexual difference is present within the social sphere. And when you use this kind of name, uh, are they trying to disrupt male physical normativity? Because if women are comfortable with such names of nail polish, slutty or layabout, then it would definitely have some kind of impact on normativity of normativity of all these concepts, or normative physical normativity is disrupted by making it normal, by accepting titles. So if somebody asks you what are you wearing, and in response you say, or a user says that I am wearing glutton or I am wearing slutty, which means which would definitely have impact on these things. Any comments on this on this particular abstract? Because I thought it was very interesting that these titles, which are considered taboos in general, and people and in many cases, uh, perhaps the user would feel insulted if it was in this part of the world. For example, I think Kareem means Kareem Cab, Kareem Taxis. They created a campaign this year, I think last year, and it had a running slogan, घर से भागना हो तो करीम बाइक मंगवाएं, right? So and there were a few other similar slogans, perhaps like घर से भागना हो तो बाइक मंगाएं actually showed a woman who was trying to escape at the time of her wedding. And the second was, I think, toilet jana ho to cream bike mangwaye. And a few different things that went viral, and people actually objected to it. And I think that somebody perhaps filed a case in High Court, because normally it should have continued. But when people file cases, things can get discontinued because of the court order. Right, so this campaign was actually abandoned Ghar Se Bhagna Ho, because culturally Pakistanis do feel very insulted with the idea that a daughter would run away from home at the time of her wedding. So I would say that something that is considered tabooed, people try avoid talking about it. So how like people are accepting this brand, this brand that the author feels is created for slut shaming, right? So she's just saying that feminist users and non-feminist ones are giving different kind of reactions, and the use of such names is actually emphasizing femininity specifically to slut shaming. Okay, any comments branding something in the on branding something like this? Nimra? Amna, Nimra, Ramin, any comment on branding products with such titles? And she thinks that these titles emphasize femininity. Jahangir? Any comment or reaction to the brand name or to the bold brand names?
No, ma'am.
No comment? You can comment from your position, because Colombia is a different country and Pakistan is a different country. As I think that in Pakistan, this kind of branding will have a strong backlash.
यहाँ पे तो बहुत बड़ा मसला बन जाना था ऐसा कोई नाम हो तो सही.
And what would be the reason? मसला बनने के पीछे क्या रीजन होगी?
मैम मसला बनने की रीजन यही है ना कि वो मतलब ज्यादा रिलीजन को ले आते हैं दरमियान में, कि वो फिर स्टेट हमारी किस उस पे बनी है, इस्लाम के नाम पे बनी है, और यहाँ पे ये बेहयाई शुरू कर दी है, और इस तरह के मैम कमेंट्स आने शुरू होते हैं.
Okay.
let's take example, एक brand है, clothing brand है, do it yourself, I think DYOT उसका नाम है. तो 1-2 सालों पहले, I think it was in 2016, when they when they launched their brand, उनकी एक ad आई थी जिसमें few women were dancing in anarkali, और उसके ऊपर काफी backlash आया था. Or that's how they branded their basically brand, because their name goes by do it yourself. So it was, they meant that ad to empower women that take up spaces in public spaces को basically आप own करें. लेकिन people in Pakistan, a lot of people went against it and they objected that idea that women were dancing in streets. So I think this can give us an idea how people in Pakistan would respond to something like this, Islamic branding.
You said it was a clothing brand?
जी मिस, और वो एक ad थी उनकी, do it yourself उसका नाम है. I think मिल भी जाएगी आपको YouTube पे अगर आप लिखें.
YouTube पे लिखूं? Let
I think
me try finding it. Do it yourself. I have a few different things here. I don't know what is.
DYOT लिखे. I think if someone else knows the name of the brand, तो like just help us out. लेकिन DYOT लिखे ad.
No.
नहीं DYOT.
I tried writing DYOT. It changed.
नहीं आ रही.
Pakistani.
I can try to find a link. और फिर मैं भेजती हूँ आपको. नहीं ये नहीं है, मैं भेजती हूँ जरा.
Okay, so it sounds interesting that perhaps the situation was similar in Colombia, but because this is supposed to be a 12-country research, so I think it's important that despite being a Colombian brand, if it is present in 12 countries, it's interesting to see how women respondents or male respondents from 12 countries are reacting to the brand name. And I think that Colombians may be a bit conventional, but even still, they are open to use of such kind of names.
Miss, this is Myra Amir. Mine was the 9th one. Title is Obscenity versus Objectification, a Feminist Reading of Levinson and Its Aftermath.
What's the number? What's the ID?
Wait 1 minute. ID is 22962.
22962?
Yes.
Okay, so this is obscenity versus objectification.
Yes, and this is an individual submission by Katie Tomes. She was a university student in City University, London. And to get on with it, the following abstract offers insight into the thematic elements present in Tom's research paper. It illuminates the role of women in media, particularly with a stronger focus on print media, such as newspapers and tabloids, and the existing misogyny and sexism that prevails within the industry. And since it's also a feminist reading of Levinson and its aftermath, the Levinson inquiry took place between 2011 and 2012. And it was a public call to basically critique, study, and protest for change within the system and outside for better media ethics and representation of women. And overall, it was also a general discussion regarding that, and general inquiry and report, which took over a year. So throughout the abstract, she employs a feminist framework in this research paper, particularly third wave feminism. It was present towards the end of 1960s onwards when third wave feminism ensued. And the concept in the UK at the time was to redefine certain definitions, appearances, structures, and how women are viewed in the public and personal light, particularly with language as well. 1 minute, miss. So we'll be focusing on online misogyny throughout this abstract, but while it does scrutinize certain patterns which happened, certain patterns and elements and themes that took place during the Levinson inquiry, these are thematic concerns which are present from a global perspective as well. And the navigation of these elements is determined by a very prominent tool, which is the role of the internet, which is observed, and how the internet is essentially used both as a medium through which notions, messages, and actions are taken, while also presenting itself as a dual-sworded tool. So, because it has a role which is both enabling and disabling for women. So it plays a role in a larger landscape of media. It is both the key through which feminist activism ensues, taking on an enabling role, while also being a disabler of progress towards women's equality and progression within the framework of feminism. So this is further delineated upon when the male gaze misogynistic lens is employed through the internet to further subdue and dictate the role of women. We'll be discussing that further on when we get to how women were presented in the Sun's page 3, how change was made, but change was not effective, and also how women politicians are subdued and subjugated to their values, subjugated and dwindled down basically to their appearance. Thus, we can say in this abstract, the internet is presented as a flexible tool used to translate and propagate a certain message and action through the hands and perspectives of an individual or the industry already holding a certain image they wish to visually depict. This is crafted while both the representation as well as the misrepresentation of women in media and their roles in a certain social cultural context, which enables a broader meta-narrative to be established. Miss, I had shared these two images with you in Google Docs. I will be needing them for, should I share them again?
No, I'm trying to open them right now.
Yes, so I just wanted them to be open just in case.
Are these the ones?
Yes, this and Kandil. There are two of them only in this. So I'll discuss them later.
Okay.
So moving on with the abstract, it also highlights how the resurgence of feminism reports in the media and news does not automatically displace nor eradicate the sexism present in the society and the other half of this news. This is further touched upon when we see Toms is referring to what is known as the luminosity of feminism. She is quoting another author's theory, an academic's theory, and sexism, and how when she refers to how sexism continues to find expression in the visual representation of women towards the later half of her abstract, and the ways in which they are objectified and trivialized. We see one such example was that for almost 44 years until 2015, the page 3 of a very right of center tabloid type newspaper, The Sun, it printed a topless model until after a series of protests by feminist activists in the UK, it was removed. However, after they had changed it, as everyone can see, this is the image that they changed this to. First, it was just a topless model, which many people were referring to as free pornography and free and non-ethical pornography being encouraged through media. But now we see that they didn't really get to the root of the issue of how it was allowing women to be objectified through the male gaze. So adding just like 2 cuts of cloth didn't really make a huge difference. And so the fact that the women are wearing bras now, it shows that the media really didn't take their inquiry and their protest seriously. But how it also highlights how the media conditions sexualized objectification of women to encourage their sales and viewships. Now, they use the high contrast. Ma'am, if we can go back to the pictures. So if one was supposed to start critically analyzing this image, the first thing that they show is through the line work and the high contrast color grade, it results in a psychological effect where it catches your gaze more, but also to show how the women are looking away from the camera. It creates an atmosphere of being carefree, but carefree without agency, because they are shown to be at the leisure and viewership of all the male readers who hold the tabloid. So this is how this image has been structured and propagated and created for the male gaze, which encourages misogyny in society and henceforth. And this also shows how the role and agency of women are usually taken away in the sense that their advertisements are very the behind the scenes of an advertisement are very ironclad and dictated, which you can also see presented in this image throughout. Now, then we also have the theories of anti-pornography feminists such as Catherine Mackinnon and Angie Dworkin, who take inequality to be tightly linked to objectification. In the eyes of both these feminists and Kant, there is a powerful objectifier on one hand. And on the other hand, there exists this powerless victim. Due to their unequal power, the former objectifies the latter. We see this divide upon further scrutiny through this tabloid page image. And furthermore, the appearances in the abstract, it is mentioned how the appearances of women, sorry, wait, the screen just changed, so my notes went away. Just give me 1 second, please. So we'll be moving on how the appearances of women in the public eye is picked apart, especially in certain tabloid media and surveilled with the forensic scrutiny. Now, this is very true, what they mentioned in the abstract, and we can give other examples. There was one part in the abstract where they mentioned how while the British politicians were not named, they mentioned how they are scrutinized in the public for their appearance and subjugated to this small boundary of etiquette in which they have to stick to. And according to that, their appearance is berated upon, as well as their value as educated women running in the state. This could be linked to how Toms is referring to being surveilled with forensic scrutiny in the public eye. Now, the role of the media, which is encouraged by the tool of the internet, it reduces women to the role of sexual commodities as long as the behind the scenes party is the one controlling these images, as was seen in The Sun. However, the hypocrisy is not lost when women attempt to own their own bodies and take the same stylistic pictures of themselves outside the humdrum of flash photography and tabloids. They're labeled and discriminated against as being obscene versus the sexy, lustrous narrative the print labels them. We see this classic example. Ma'am, to the second image, please. When we discuss the late Kandil Baloch, who to social media would take similar photographs the industry takers would take, and big hotshot photographers would take for certain contracts, but she was berated for this and she was slut shamed for this, and essentially it led to her eventual death and murder in an act of honor killing by her own family members. And while yes, there are multiple discrepancies and differences between the UK narrative, how the agency women have in the United Kingdom versus Pakistan, this only highlights more so how any agency seen within women needs to be berated upon, regardless of the context. And this is mainly through, essentially, because women have ventured out of the clutches of the industry that annoys them. Now, furthermore, we'll discuss women in politics. They continue to be trivialized and sexualized, as was also mentioned in the abstract, but this was only mentioned briefly, so I'll just give more clarity on it, on how the various aspects of their appearance are used to diminish and silence the women in public life. Now, within the parameters of civilized etiquettes, the binary of what is acceptable and unacceptable, where the scope is not only limited to only the physical decorum, but linked to certain emotional expression and a security in their work ethic and how well they can perform. So we see, like, honestly, the hypocrisy of media at this point, because on one side you have a right of, using the example of a right of center politically charged newspaper, which is printing images of women topless and sexually objectifying them for the public everyday scrutiny, everyday life. And then you also have how in the same region, but in multiple other regions, women politicians, if their ankles are showing, or if there was one case that happened in the United States when Alexandria Cortez was judged for wearing a long skirt and shoes by a conservative individual who took to Twitter to make this comment on how whatever she says, like in a very microaggressive way, he said कि whatever कि her clothes do not show that she comes from a lower working class background as she claims. Basically, they used women's appearance to not only disvalue their integrity and the way they present themselves in state and public, but also work ethic. So after analyzing the aforementioned images, we arrived to another major point, which we were discussing was controlling women and their bodily agency via the narrative of etiquette, which is firstly inherently disproportionate, and the civilizing process should clearly be dubbed as more of a controlling process for these women, because they will be called obscene outside the parameters of big media control, but policed to fit a bubble of decorum, to stay locked under their thumbs. Essentially, the message is clear. They're stating that your sexuality is mine, not yours. And when the media and print media feels it right to label one as obscene versus one as fitting their role, they should pick and choose who to objectify, but in what category to also place them in. This is more or less done, unless we want to discuss more of the abstract.
Thank you. It's up to you. You can try winding it up, or if you have completed, I think we can open it to discussion.
I think we can open it to discussion, but there is more, but I've already reached the 10-minute mark.
Okay. G, any comments? I think it was interesting to see that in these 14 abstracts, we find names of different presidents or prime ministers
Yes.
in many places. You know, so I think in the one that we were reading earlier, impeachment of the prime minister was mentioned. In another, Trump's name was mentioned against whatever was in media on what Ford had said. And right now we are seeing that a woman prime minister is mentioned in this article, which means that somehow the media has the tendency, or especially the tabloids have the tendency of emphasizing on things or artifacts which are important to women. For example, it says women prime minister's choice of shoes was emphasized. Various aspects of her appearance were used in the media, which means that whatever she was saying as a prime minister was less important. So woman as a builder of the country lost meaning in this speech because her shoes and various aspects of physical appearance were emphasized in the media, which means that the media was used to diminish women or diminish or silence even the prime minister. As I believe, as Myra said just now, I found this comment very interesting, that the people who use images of this kind, they say, they tend to say that your body or sexuality is mine, not yours. I think this is, I haven't perhaps repeated the exact words. But
basically, their concept is the idea that I got through all of this was they're trying to say your sexuality is mine. And if I want to fit into the boundaries of etiquette and derail you, I can. Or if I want to objectify you being topless and making it okay, I can. So
okay.
it's
So is this something that you said yourself, or you were reading it somewhere?
This I analyzed myself.
Okay, I think this is a very interesting comment. Because you are trying to textualize objectification in certain manner. So saying this, that your sexuality is mine and not yours, actually shows how strongly women can be objectified even if they were prime minister in a country. And where even in this case, we can see that if various aspects of her appearance are emphasized, it means that her voice as a prime minister silenced. She's diminished. She is her role in public life is reduced to these artifacts, primarily the choice of shoes and various aspects of her personality, which means that if she has been carefully selecting them, emphasis is more on that kind of selection and less on the work that she does as prime minister of the country, which also means that her role as socioeconomic builder reduces, you know.
It's not a recent endeavor. There's a whole, I'll see if I still have some of the readings, but there's a whole history of how ever since women entered politics, the way men have always been fixated on their appearance. It's very automatic for them to derail them through appearance, even if it's not something loud. It will be something as simple as commenting on their ankles or the shape of their body. Even if they're not explicitly labeling them obscene, they're trying to get that message across in a very passive aggressive manner. This happened in another case in the early to late 90s when there was a woman of color, Carol Braun. She was a senator of the United States, and Women's Wear Daily had her on the cover of a picture, but they had made a close-up of her derriere
Can you repeat the name?
Carol Braun. Mosley, I think is her Carol Braun. She was a United States senator. 1990s. I think BRAUN. And basically they just commented on her outfit and was just like, this is how an outfit should not look like.
Okay, is this the one?
Yes, this is her.
Okay, so I think it was stronger because she was a woman of color.
But there were also other incidents that, yes, I agree that with women of color, they have an added layer of discrimination against them.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay.
There was another one, her name was Catherine Langley, but this was early 1920s and 30s. And this woman was only criticized because her clothes were just colorful, but she was a white woman.
Okay, and that was a politician too?
I don't think she was a politician, but she was a prominent figure in the art industry. I don't remember exactly, but I'll see if I can get something regarding this.
Right, so do you recognize this woman on the screen right now?
Sania Mirza.
Sania Mirza. You can see that she was, the emphasis was less on the game she was playing, and the emphasis was more on her body and looks. You know, even when she was a champion, and she married a Pakistani player, Shoaib. So even still, we can see that women's performance is less appreciated in many cases, because I remember that whenever Sania Mirza was performing, the emphasis was more on her look. Especially if you look at this image, you can see that Sania Mirza is actually sexualized. I didn't know that this was a video, because I just tried clicking the image and it took me straight to the video. And you can, you know, the way she's objectified while playing the game. So very clearly, she's perhaps hitting, you know, the ball here, but the emphasis is less on the shot and more on body of Sania Mirza. So I had not realized. So most of the times when she was playing tennis, media often emphasized on fragmentation of her body, focusing less on the performance of the player and more on her appearance. So
And ma'am, it is not just that they pick the ones like there's the ones like Sania Mirza or some politician who is, you know, on this so-called like the pedestal of audience, and they're looking at this person. I remember that in 2019 when we did Student Solidarity March, and on Faiz Mela, one of our, you know, one of the students, Aruj, was, uh, you know s- raising slogans and everything, and the media caught attention, and how they portrayed is was she was talking about the rights of students and how there are rise in fee and everything, and campus problems, and how a normal person is not able to go to university these days because of the fee issues and everything. And where the media brought her was the point that, oh, how can you talk about other people's rights when you are wearing a leather jacket? You are wearing a leather jacket that is an expensive outfit, and you talk about the rights of people. You are an elite girl, and you are doing this. So they tried their best to delegitimize what she was talking about. And then later on, and she gave the replies. We all responded to such comments on social media and everywhere. And it was not just the media who was doing this was done all over the social media by even a normal person, anyone, common man. And then every time then this whole thing got hyped up, and other media houses and channels started calling us for interviews and for the purpose of march and everything. And every time they used to ask Rouge, when she was going to go on like on TV, they used to ask, please can you wear that leather jacket, because like that is the symbol. And she was like, it is not important for you that what we are saying, what we are struggling for here. It is not important for you. What holds most importance is that I am wearing a leather jacket, and you are trying to paint me as this I don't know what. So it is quite annoying, and it is quite it gets frustrating and exhausting when you face such things like one to one. And there's a different experience when you look at it from a distance, like from a TV. You are watching a news about something, and then when it happens with somebody as close as she was to me, it was a very exhausting experience. It makes you feel tired of answering the same thing and facing the same thing. And in this year, I mean, after all these years, till this day, we have to face the same thing, and similar things faced by other women around us. So yeah.
And I agree with that completely, especially the how they delegitimize us, as you mentioned, because that is they do that with a very enforced cage of etiquette, which they would like to fit women into. And you see that in also basic interactions. If you are too friendly or your clothes are too flashy or revealing, they dwindle you down to whether your etiquette is on point and determine your value through that. And I think that's what this abstract also tried to touch upon.
Yes, it does. I think it uses the word forensic scrutiny. So forensic scrutiny becomes very important, and surveillance becomes very important. That surveillance actually changes the meaning of meaning. And as Amna also said, that there was less emphasis on what she was saying or what Aruj was saying, and more emphasis on the demand that wear that leather jacket for us.
Ma'am, I feel like these are the same people that ruined the phrase "Mera jism meri marzi" and made it about the whole idea of women wanting to be naked and dancing around and taking off their bras, and that's what that phrase meant. Instead of decoding it the way it was meant to be, they ruined the whole idea behind that. जब वो औरत मार्च पे हुई थी, so they took it entirely out of proportion and made it about like feeding into their own disgusting fantasies.
Yes, and to add to that, it actually when we analyze it, it shows the discrepancy between the male and the female gaze because they have a generational history of sexualizing us with a very
Exactly.
penetrative sort of eye that we do not see eye to eye with their perspective
Exactly.
because that women are never allowed to own their own sexuality. So you do
Exactly.
not, we don't view mera jism meri marzi that way because we don't view ourselves in that the
Exactly.
manner we do.
Exactly.
It's like that agency is all.
Okay, you may have watched this clip of
Yes.
Khalilur Rahman Kamar. I think it went viral, and I think most people actually condemned Khalilur Rahman for treating Marvi. What was this? Was the name? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So it looked very strange after he had written that play. Mere Paas Tum Ho, because in Mere Paas Tum Ho, he was actually showing a woman uh, who did what she wanted to do, a woman who actually believed in Mera Jism Meri Marzi, and a woman who kept on telling her husband कि मैं तुम्हारे साथ नहीं रहना चाहती, I want to leave you. So I think it did not make much sense. Probably when media
Ma'am,
invite.
but he painted her, I think I haven't watched the drama, but because of the memes and everything online, I think he painted her as
A
a
villain.
bad woman.
Yeah.
She
That
was
is
not
how he
painted
painted
as
her,
a good
ma'am. It
woman,
wasn't.
and he
It
was like कि
wasn't.
इस तरह जो औरतें करती हैं वो औरत कहलाने के लायक नहीं
हाँ, और
होती.
उनका एंड गलत होता है और उनको एंड में like they
हाँ,
don't get happy
हाँ.
endings. They're
And
like,
they,
the man that
how they
she.
suffer at the end, and
Yeah,
there is this
exactly.
man who is being and he was painting her as a very wrong character because
Uh,
she chose to
Yeah, and
marry
ma'am,
this
it's
other
not
guy. I
just
don't
that
know.
drama. All
he
of
did
his other
he
scripts as well. I was a
did.
big fan of him before he did this blunder. तो मैं इसकी सारी मैंने dramas देखी हुई and I read all of his scripts. Almost in all of his scripts, there was always this one woman who was shown as the bad woman, and she had all the traits of a woman who had a strong opinion and wanted to do something with her own life instead of like falling head over heels in love with the main character and standing up for her own freedom. तो वो उसको बहुत negatively portray करता था हर ड्रामे में, like even in Pyare Afzal and like in all of the dramas that he's written.
Okay, right. So basically, he painted Mavish as a bad woman because for her he uses the male protagonist keeps on calling her do take ki aurat, right?
Huh,
So
exactly.
you're absolutely right that he was actually painting the image of the woman as bad or negative woman. The only reason I find this production interesting is that in past Pakistani films, such a woman had a small role. She had the role of supporting characters, people who appeared for a
Yeah.
short while and disappeared, and the story never centered about them. Somehow,
Yeah.
this story, Mavish was the central character of this production, and that's why I find it extremely important that he had centered whole play around a character who he believed was bad, who he kept on calling do take ki aurat.
At the same time, in a covertly way, it was about the main guy, like Humayun Saeed, and his development as a hero, like his character development, like after she leaves him and how he gets rich and how he gets money only just so he could prove her wrong. Like it was centered around the main male lead instead of the female. She was just someone who was used as, let's just say, as a prop to develop his character more.
Okay,
And
okay,
ma'am,
that
what's
that
shocking
makes
is
sense.
that like almost 98% of our population, of our society, they loved this drama. They loved it. Everybody loved it. I
Because it
was
also
like,
fits into the norms we have established
ah,
for.
Yeah,
So
they create content like this and then they hate on Ertugrul, which makes no sense.
Madhi Sahib,
Okay, so I believe that, can you repeat what you said about the content? You said they loved the content, or they loved that
They love to watch this content, and they love watching these kind of dramas, but they hate on Irtugal. Like, why are we showing dusri country ke dramas on this show? Where like our own country's dramas are awful. So matlab, or hum like there's a reason why Irtugal is famous. They should learn from that and make more content like that, instead of just focusing on that same whole like kisi pity story of the woman being submissive and the man being
नहीं,
toxic.
वो इसीलिए तो दे लाइक द ड्रामा, बिकॉज उनको लगता है कि मतलब ये हमारी सोसाइटी को रिफ्लेक्ट करता है, ये जो औरतें इस तरह करती हैं। और अर्तुगल से जो प्रॉब्लम है मेनली, वो आई डोंट थिंक ये हमारे आम आवाम को है। आई थिंक वो प्रॉब्लम फिल्म इंडस्ट्री के लोगों को है। आम लोगों को तो बड़ा पसंद आ रहे हैं, मेरे मतलब जहां तक मैंने देखा है, जो जिस तरह से लोग उसको देख रहे हैं और जिस तरह से फॉलो
Oh,
कर रहे हैं।
ma'am, talking about Ertugrul, do you know about the whole scandal that happened about the main female lead? That is kind of similar to the abstract that Myra was presenting on.
हाँ,
They started
हलीमा,
calling
आई
her
डोंट नो व्हाट
Bhai
वाज हर
Halima,
नेम इन द
Bhabhi, whatever, and they were commenting on
Isra
Facebook.
Biljik,
yep,
okay,
and she
so
was bashed for, you know.
Yes,
no, no,
posting pictures on Instagram.
yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
like she was dressed in, I
There
don't
were
even think
comments
she was
like,
wearing a
sister, you should
bikini.
not do such roles
Yeah,
because you are
she
Halima.
got so much hate from Pakistani men in the comments saying you shouldn't be a Muslim, you shouldn't play a Muslim character if you're dressed like this. Like, they literally eradicated her performance and her beautiful work in the show and made it about her, like sexualizing her as an object.
That is
Exactly.
outside the drama, basically. That is a personal life. That is
Yeah, but
something
no,
totally
she's
different.
that character now.
And
Yeah,
it is
because she is
also, if
Halima. So
it becomes an area of discussion on how media doesn't, if media is consistent with a society's norms, especially if those norms are enforced through a schema of shame, they feel validated by what they constantly get because it gives them that security as well. And
Exactly.
anything outside of that becomes an area of contention where they won't feel defensive and they want to attack as well because it angers them, it upsets them, or God knows
Yeah.
whatever. Like there's a plethora of what is the media plays with in its role with people.
okay, all right, good. G,
Miss one, because I ran out of time, but there was this one point in the abstract which I thought was essential to bring up, which was also mentioned by the researcher, was how the objectification of women also doesn't only like diminish their value and how they're viewed, but also the value of their word when it comes to rape cases and myths and how the media reports these myths. Now, one example I was reading in my research was how in the UK you have two prominent newspaper industries. One is the left, politically left-center Guardian versus the Sun, the right-centered one, the one this key picture we also discussed. And there was an article which was analyzing how the media reports cases of rape and violence against women and the discrepancy in both of those. And the main thing was in the Sun, there was an incident where a man had murdered his wife and family, and the way they reported it was because the wife angered the man after he found out she was having an affair, he murdered the whole family. So it's also to be analyzed how the media encourages not only objectifying women in certain roles physically through their stylistic tendencies, but then also it makes them a vacuum and a void for own up to mistakes that weren't theirs and diminishes the strength and gravity of the violence they have to feel and they are subjugated to on a daily basis. So this was the point I had.
right, G.
With
So,
that, I think ended because the abstract didn't, towards the end of the abstract, it then was talking about tactics and techniques, but it didn't elaborate upon what tactics and techniques would be discussed in the research paper. Overall, it was just a call between obscenity and objectification, but more to do with the Levinson inquiry.
okay. All right, I think she was emphasizing on force of terrifying life force of media when she said that victim blaming lens that media use, and it frames rape stories in a certain way that people uh, do not sympathize with the one raped. Uh, it may really depend, because if you are presenting images that or writing something or framing stories in a certain way that people cannot sympathize with the one rape, then it is very critical also. And all she's saying that this kind of treatment or this kind of images have a very terrifying life force.
Yes, as you said, their life force.
Yeah, it's written right here. It says terrifying life force of media, because it would emphasize, it would opt for victim blaming the one who is dead instead of blaming the rapist, or, you know. So again, in the end, it's talking about a cultural landscape, in which common women to prime minister are sexualized uh, in news media, one way or the other. So I think I'm not sure if you can see all these things right now, but let me try. Let me try opening a certain. Let me try sharing this.
Basically, Miss, it touches upon the position of sexism in media and how women are at the forefront. No, not at the forefront, they're at the receiving end, sorry.
Okay, I think I had to open this page. I'm just trying to find it. Yes, I think it was this one. If we, for example, it says revenge tragedy. Can you see this page that I have shared just now?
Yes.
Music. So it says gender and communication. So here you can see a list of different things. For example, women make news, right on top. And we were talking about news media right now, that presents the images of the raped women and of prime minister in similar fashion or style. It says women make news, obituary, human trafficking, and genital mutilation. So these were some papers on, these are just talking about kind of news, women, news that are printed about women in different newspapers. I think the top one is, it says Nordic newspaper focusing on obituary for women. And then the next one says ethical journalism. I think it compares human trafficking, basically US gendered reporting on human trafficking. And even in such cases, even if they are victims of human trafficking, news are presented in certain style. The next one says that journalistic experience in reporting female genital mutilation in Kenya. So it would be in African countries. And the last one just compares the identity of an Ethiopian and Israeli woman in newspapers of newspapers printed in Jerusalem. So it's just comparing images of different kind of women, Ethiopian or Israeli woman in Israel. So I do think that these kind of different approaches actually reflect on, like women are mostly objectified, and it doesn't really matter where they're coming from or what they are doing. Their work is less emphasized, their importance as socioeconomic builders is less emphasized, and even their health matters are less emphasized. And against these images that feminists are discussing, uh, women are also discussing self-objectification issues in terms of digital beautification or cosmetic surgery or makeup, you know. So I think these are contradicting images, because at one point we look at we look at objectification from feminist perspective, and at the same time we try to study digital beautification from self-objectification point of view, or makeup or surgery from the same perspective. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, in next class on Wednesday, we will. I think we will start with the next reading. Okay, because we should start new topic immediately. And if you have noticed, the next topic is on A Girl in the River. So please try watching this film before the class, because it won't be possible for us to watch this film. This is about 36 minutes long. I would prefer that we watch it before the class. Okay, and we discussed it during the class. I have posted an article here. It says, and I have posted the link to the film. The article is on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I have also posted a diagram here on on the same hierarchy of needs. So I do want that you watch film beforehand. It says 37 minutes and 58 seconds. So I would say this film is about 58 minutes long. Sorry, not 58 minutes long. It is 38 minutes long. Okay. So please watch this film before the class, so we save time and we discuss it during the session. I said we will be discussing it in the light of hierarchy of needs, and we will try to understand what were the needs of the father, the mother, and sorry, I was not trying to turn it on. Somehow whenever I try to make it big, it starts playing. So I'm saying that we will discuss what were the needs of this girl and what were the needs of her parents. Okay, in terms of physical needs, safety needs, love and belonging needs, development of self-esteem and self-actualization. So that's all. Maslow talks about these 5 types of things. So we will try to understand what this woman goes through and what are her needs, because father tried to kill her, and she took him to the court, and then she ended up forgiving her father. Her story is very different from Kandil Bloch's story. So I'm sure you are familiar with this character and her story as well. So please try watching the film beforehand. Make notes of different dialogues from within this film. And if you look here, I have posted some quotations from Maslow's paper. In fact, M. Griffin is the author, and M. Griffin is writing this paper on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So I just picked up a couple of different quotations from the reading and posted them here, because I'm trying to see a link between those specific quotes and the dialogues in this film. There would be a dialogue where father criticizes that he was feeding her. वो कहता है भूखी तो नहीं मर रही थी, उसको रोटी मिल रही थी. So he is probably talking about physiological needs of the girl. He is not thinking about her emotional needs or need for love or belonging. So I'm just saying that what Shenoy is showing and what M. Griffin is writing about hierarchy of needs. So try watching the film at least, and try reading what I have asked here, and we will discuss the 2 things in the next class. Okay. Any
Okay.
comments? I have already marked attendance, so I think we are good.
Thank you, Miss. Allah Hafiz.
Okay, Allah Hafiz ji.
Thank you, Miss. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.